Loud. Well, hello, everybody. It's time for WordPress Lehigh Valley meetup. We're online today, obviously, and I have a coworker and new friend of mine, Scott Kingsley Clark, who I've invited to come share about a product he works with called Pods. I had the link in the notes. I hope you read a little about it, but if not, I'm sure Scott will give a little primer about what it is, because we know people wander in these events just because they want to get out of the house. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and I am recording. And I did make you a co-presenter, Scott. So when you're ready, you go for it.
Well, everyone else introduced themselves, so I should do that.
Yes.
My name is Scott Kingsley Clark. I have the middle name because there's a lot of Scott Clarks out there. There's a lot of Scotts out there, and there's a lot of Clarks out there, and I've got two first names and a common last name. So I'm getting hit from all sides. I need that little middle name to add to the effect.
Yes.
And so I am the product manager at Paid Memberships Pro, which is a pretty cool place. Kimberly Coleman here works there, so does Kim White, and we just do some pretty cool stuff with memberships. And then I'm also the lead developer of the Pods Framework plugin, which I'm here to talk to you about today. I also am a organizer, past organizer of many years for WordCamp DFW, and lifetime just volunteer of trying to give stuff out for free with my plugins for WordPress. And so I'm hopeful that there's some cool stuff I can teach you about how you can do content architecture and such type of structure stuff on your website with WordPress and Pods tonight. It's nighttime here, and it's nighttime for you too.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Yep. Let me know if you need anything. You should have the power. There you go.
Got the power. All right. And also, if you didn't notice in my background, I have instruments here, so I play music for fun, entirely for fun. I'm not particularly good at it, but I really enjoy playing it. And I'm okay at it. I play baritone ukulele. I also play drums and all sorts of stuff. So, all right. So this is Pods, pods.io, and you can also go to WordPress.org and find Pods there. We've got 100,000 active installs, so it's not a small plugin, but it's also not the most popular. If you're interested in after we discuss this, there's also this really handy resource, comparedwp.org, and it shows you the most popular active installs for free plugins on WordPress.org and also some premium ones. It kind of goes through the features and how they compare and pricing and all sorts of other details that we put together. I put this together with Matt Gibbs originally a few years back, and now it's grown to be a point where all the people that are listed here, all the plugins, have had someone vouch for it. So someone from the team has reviewed it and made sure the information is up to date and current. So it's pretty cool that I was able to get some people to collaborate and get this information out there. So I'm prefacing this entire presentation by saying you don't have to use Pods. A lot of the features in Pods is available in other plugins like Advanced Custom Fields or Custom Post Types UI or Metabox, all sorts of different plugins out there to choose from. So use this as a handy resource. I'll make sure we put that link up there. So Pods itself, it allows you to create new content types and add custom fields for WordPress. It also has some really fantastic features built all around that to make it better. We have envisioned Pods through the past 13 years. 2008 was when we first started the Pods project. This is before custom post types ever was even part of WordPress. And we were one of the first plugins to implement custom post types originally. And then we eventually added UIs and stuff that you could leverage that in our later versions of Pods 2.0 and above. Our latest release is Pods 2.8, and it introduces some really cool features. I'm just going to do the high level here just so you can understand. You can extend different content types. You can create new content types. That includes custom post types. So that's like posts and pages. You've got custom taxonomies. That's like categories or tags, but your own kind of taxonomies. There's also the ability to create custom setting screens. You also have the ability within Pods to create their own entirely custom tables. So it's almost like a table diagramming plugin at that level where you can create your own tables too inside of your database. So there's some stuff there for everyone of all sorts of skills levels. then you can add fields to any of those. You can add groups of fields and define where you want them to show and how you want them to appear by different field types. We have a number of blocks and shortcodes available, so you can leverage them to display your pod fields anywhere you'd like. We're going to go over that. And relationships is a big deal. So relationships, we spent extensive amount of time building the architecture that supports it and how it all works. And ever since we introduced it, it's been one of our most popular features. A lot of people come over from advanced custom fields to leverage our relationships because it is very powerful feature. I'm actually very surprised it hasn't been reproduced by all of our competitors yet. So it's kind of cool to still be there on the leading edge of everything. But it allows you to relate any kind of content type to another content type. And as you see here in this drop-down preview here, you can see you can relate to a number of different things. And users could be another post type, could be another taxonomy. It could be other things like image sizes or even gravity forms. There's some cool things in there. So I think you might enjoy that side of it if you're just diving into pods. And then also another really cool feature is being able to embed forms. So you have the ability to embed a public form. So this is someone who's submitting, like in this case here, this example, a distributor may want to submit and say, hey, I want to submit my information so you can let me know if we can start this distribution deal for an author, a book author, for instance. So there's something like this. So it's almost like a simple gravity form, but it really is a very built out structure. So your content type is informing this form, and all the data that goes in here goes right into your post type or whatever kind of pod you have. Any kind of pod is supported because all of our interfaces, all of our code and forms all operate with the same shared logic. So every content type is equal. And that's one part that's really cool about pods because everything is very easy to get around. There's no weirdness between different content types in that way. That's a pretty cool part. And then we've got some really cool developer-focused stuff. Like when you get in deeper, there's some really cool things as well as translations, and it's classic editor compatible. It's funny because we have to say that now, because so much is happening in the block editor space that everyone kind of expects everything just to work with block editor in some of the more recent versions of many plugins, but classic editor is still a focus for a lot of the people that use pods, so we've made that a focus as well. So that is an area that continues to work well. I'm going to start diving into some stuff, but before I do this, I'd like to open up the floor. I have some ideas that I'd love to see if we can create a new content structure together. There's some really bright minds here. I've already seen a few. I'm not going to count Ken Kramer as the brightest, but he's a pretty cool dude. And I'd love to hear any one of your input. You can pass it into the chat, or you can just hop into the meetup, just unmute yourself, and just throw out an idea. I'd love to hear what potential ideas you might have for a pod. What kind of data structure or content type can you think of? Or maybe it's a project you're about to hop into, a client who's asked for something and they say, I want this on my site. You have any ideas? Because maybe there might be something here we can build out together. So anyone want to be the first to throw out an idea? Let's see, real estate, that's cool. So for real estate, we could say real estate, and we'll just keep, because real estate could go for land, it could go for business properties and homes, but in apartments and rent and stuff like that. So we'll just stick to homes, house listings. Yeah. Anyone else have any ideas? Recipes. Oh, I love that one. Christmas. Okay, so let's say, is that kind of like Secret Santa? Or is it more like keeping track of who's getting what? I'm just wondering perhaps what that might be there. Gift ideas and the people who would like them. Okay, so gift ideas to track what people might like. Scenic train, right? That's a pretty good one because I love trains, but I don't get to ride them that often. I'm in Dallas, so we don't have like a great amount of trains I'm just south of Dallas, so I'm outside the main Metroplex DART system, the Dallas Area Rapid Transport. So we don't have any public transport like trains and stuff you can just hop into. You have to actually go to like a big train station to do that. But cool places. And all right, I think dog training. That's a cool one. So dog training. And I've heard of other ideas like gyms, or in the cases of someone who may have quotes, a quote system. So there's that, the testimonials. There you go. Adopt a car. Now we're getting into some interesting things. All right, so I'm gonna stop there because we've got plenty now. I think some really cool ones might be the real estate. That's a really cool one. Recipes is also like just a really great one. It's easy for us all to have a really basic understanding of, and I think maybe we'll go with recipes because everyone has read a recipe at least once. They've seen one. They've read the back of a Duncan Hines box, right? Or at least you've seen your grandmother's recipe book. All sorts of stuff. Everyone has a shared basis of understanding for that. Maybe not everyone has an understanding of like houses and all the interesting things you might see on MLS and all that stuff. So we'll keep it to recipes for this time. First thing we're gonna do is I've already loaded up my site with pods, and I've already added a few pods themselves. You can see here I've got books, book authors, and book categories, and some other things. I've also got a test pod that has every type of field that we have in pods, just defined 118 different variations, and there's more. So you can have tons of different options you can choose from, and we've tested them, so they're pretty fun to do. But I've already got books, so I'm gonna go ahead and start adding recipe pod. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is go to add new, and you see here there's one-click options here you can choose from. So you can extend posts or pages or categories. If I did not have users already defined, you'd already see add custom fields to users here too. So you can quickly click and add extra fields to your profiles. But in this case, we're going to choose to create a new content type. This one's a custom post type, so we're going to choose that. But we can also choose, I'm not sure if you can see the drop down because I'm sharing it in Zoom, but there's custom post type, custom taxonomy, custom settings, and advanced content types. The advanced content types are totally blank slate tables in a database, and you won't see this when you're first installing pods. This is a special component. You can always find that under components. You can enable the advanced content types there, but in most use cases, almost every single one of you probably will never have to touch advanced content types, but it's a pretty cool option when you get to the point where you've grown, where you need a very specific use case outside of WordPress. We'll go with custom post type for now. And we'll say a recipe, recipes. And a lot of things in pods, you'll notice there's things hidden away under advanced. So just to show you, you can customize that name of the post type. You can go ahead and say whether or not you want REST API on or off. And you can choose if you have the table component. The table storage component is optionally available. It's not on by default. You can choose to store your custom fields in their own table, which is another really fantastic option for developers and people who are looking to further optimize certain queries. This is really awesome for large data sets and scaling. So we're going to keep it with meta-based for now. And we're going to go ahead and go forward and create that pod. Because we're doing this live, I hope with all of my hope, like every piece of it, that nothing goes wrong. But if something does go wrong, I'll definitely, if there's something I need to follow up on later, I can follow up on that in a link somewhere on the meetup website. So I've added my recipe pod. We've got a number of different tabs options here. So this is the pod editor. This is all powered by the new stuff we just added in pods. So anyone familiar with pods, this is the new editor that's powered by React. The React language is something that WordPress introduced in the release of the block editor as part of WordPress. And that was, I believe, WordPress 5.0, right? I believe, yeah, that's right. And so this new technology is now infused within Pod's editor. And the exciting part there is not necessarily that it's using it, it's now the capabilities we have. So some of the new stuff we're going to be adding to Pods is much easier and also really, really cool to develop with. It's pretty fun. And you can see here, you can define your pod labels. So I can say if I didn't want it to be recipes, maybe I wanted it to be recipe maker or whatever, I can do those sort of things. And as you see here, plural label, as I type in this, it actually changes here so I can see what these labels were going to be. And by default, and then I can always customize these ones to be view recipe or whatever I want specifically for these labels. And most of the stuff is just extra. We do it automatically for you. It's just there in case you want to customize things. And then we've got admin UI. There's some really fantastic plugin. If you've never used it before, it's called Admin Columns. There's a free plugin, and there's also a pods integration available for Admin Columns Pro. It's a fantastic add-on. They spend a ton of time building their add-ons that are in the Pro version. There's a lot of logic in there that does some really cool things with each of the plugins they integrate with, and Pods is not an exception. The code I've seen in their add-on is pretty fantastic. I love the fact that they spent so much time involving themselves in our projects and making us a priority for them. There's some really cool stuff. I don't have it activated on this site specifically, but if you ever get a chance, it's pretty awesome if you want to customize your post types list in the admin area, the table. You can customize the columns, all those sorts of stuff like that. Pretty cool. But in the options that we give you here for pods, you can customize the description. You can also choose to not show the admin UI at all if you don't want it to be showing up. You can choose to have not show up in the menu, and you can choose to make it not show up in navigation menus or in the add new up here. So if I didn't want that recipe to show up here, I would just uncheck this button. And you can customize lots of different things depending on what the options are. You can see here, I can choose the custom menu icon if I wanted to. I don't really have a great example, but I'll just keep it empty for now. In the future, we're going to add a new menu dropdown, a chooser, so you'll be able to choose your admin menu there. But right now, it's just you enter it and you just match it up to your dash icon. We have connections. This is a pretty cool part. Like I said before, we have relationships, but connections is a way for WordPress to know how a post type and a taxonomy are connected between each other. Watch this area because we're going to be expanding the connections area further in future releases of pods. That's why we've kind of labeled it connections, because it's a pretty cool generalized label that's going to apply for a lot of really cool features. In this, I can choose to apply an association to a specific taxonomy. So if I want to associate it to categories, I can. And automatically, it knows that categories and tags don't include post types that are custom post types in their archives on the front. So I can say, oh yeah, go ahead and include my recipes on the front whenever someone's going to the website and looking on the archive. When they're looking at all the posts for a specific category, now my recipes will also appear in that now as a custom post type because I've just clicked these couple of checkboxes. And then if I wanted to, I can go create a new post type here to associate things to. And then I've also got advanced options. I'll keep this real fast because advanced has lots of different things. You can choose to enable lots of different options inside of your post type, as well as your taxonomies. You can choose to have parents and all sorts of other things. We'll do archive page, and we'll keep that there. We've got REST API on. We'll keep that on. Not touch much anything else. We're going to save the pod. So now our changes are saved inside of those tabs. Let's go ahead and go look at the fields. Under the fields, by default, you'll get a new group that you can work with. It's called More Fields. You can click in to edit that here. Click Edit. And then you can choose advanced options to restrict access to the whole group of fields, or you can just customize the label and choose additional things for WordPress to know about position of that. We're going to keep it for now as is. And we're going to add our very first field. As a recipe, we know we need a title. We know we need some content. But what else? We might need some things like ingredients. So let's say ingredient, relationship, and I'm going to choose a custom simple define list. I could always set up another post type, but for speed's sake, I'm going to keep this as a basic one. And we'll say, does it contain butter? Or does it contain milk? Or does it contain brown sugar? And maybe it just also contains sugar. Now, of course, I'm not going to make this exhaustive, but as I click into the options inside of the relationship options over here, I can then choose exactly how I want this ingredients list to work. So right now it's defaulting to single select. I can choose multiple select. And now I have different options. So I can choose whether or not it's going to use checkboxes for the list. I can choose multi-select. I can choose autocomplete, and I can also choose list view. List view is awesome. It's one of our best views, but I'm gonna go with checkboxes for now. And you can also choose display format. You can choose to just have everything separated by a comma or your own custom separator. You can use the normal commas where you have item 1, comma, then item 2, and then note comma. Or you can use the default, which is the better one. It's a serial comma, Oxford comma, and that's a pretty cool one. You can also choose how many they can allow to be selected. So if I wanted to say only 2 recipes or only 2 ingredients are allowed to be selected for a recipe, I can do that here. I'll just leave it empty. And I'm gonna save that field. And now I have my first field. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the recipe. We'll take a look at that. And I have my first recipe here. Let's say this one's going to be just sugar and milk. Take 2 cups of sugar, add to boiling milk, cook it for 10 minutes, and think about your life choices. All right, so we're going to choose sugar and milk for the ingredient, and we're going to publish it. So we just created our very first recipe. What does that look like here? On the front end, by default, WordPress will give your post types the title and other information like the date, but also just the content. That could be blocks, that could be just text, it could be whatever. But what we are missing here is our ingredients. Where did our ingredients go? So let's talk about templating. So within pods, you have the very handy feature called pod templates. If you go to components, and you'll see it there. You can enable it. If it's not already there, it should be there by default on all new installs. And I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these older ones. And delete that one. I'm going to add my very first template for recipes. And the name of this template, it matters because this is how we're going to identify the template in the other areas. So this one's going to be recipe single. I'll do singular. And then I can choose the pod. And now that I've chosen the pod, it tells me details about it. So I can say I want to output, and of course this is where we talk about a little about HTML. You can have p tags and whatever HTML you want. In the future, this is going to be a lot more visual based. It's going to be allowing you to do blocks and stuff like that. But that's not the coolest part that we'll get to about visual editing. This is just showing you how to do some basic stuff. And we're just going to output the ingredients. So ingredient, and I'll do that. And there's my ingredient. So I know I want to put that in there. I'm going to publish that. And now I have my very first template, recipe singular. And now I can go to the recipes area, look at my recipe. If I refresh, what I'm not seeing here, even though I've selected my pod, I have to go and edit my pod. So on this refresh, I don't see it yet. So if I go back to edit my pod, I'll notice that something I didn't show you a second ago was the auto template options. Auto templates allow us to output automatically the template specific, well, in this case, I need to refresh my screen because I haven't loaded it since I created that pod. But it allows us to automatically output templates based off of the context. So the context may be when I'm looking at an individual singular recipe, or maybe it's the list of recipes. And now I can choose that. That's a singular one. I can choose, it's going to appear after the content. And in this case, I'll go ahead and do it on the archives too, and we'll do after. And I'm going to save that. So now what happens? Now we see our singular template, milk and sugar. I can always make this better by going into my template and saying ingredients. Save that template and then refresh my singular view. Oh, looks like there's a little bit of a caching problem. Like I said, we're doing this all fun style live. We're doing it live, so there is a minor cache issue. We'll just ignore that issue right there. But you can see the value in being able to work with the templates inside of your like you have more control with these pod templates. Now, when you think about things like, okay, what about the future of WordPress? What about blocks? What about full site editing? Well, that is where a lot of this stuff becomes even more fun. Let's go ahead and take a look at pages. We're going to add our very first page. We know we have recipes as an archive. I can just look at the recipes page, but what if I want to have a featured recipe section? And I've got a featured recipes page now, and I can go and add a new block. I'm going to just type in pods so you can see all the pods blocks. And here is pods field value. There is pods form, pods item list, pods view, and pods single item. All these have their own uses, and they're all really quite cool. Let's go ahead and talk about the item list, because that's what we want to do. We want to list items. So let's click that block. I'm going to assign it to the recipe pod. And now I'm going to choose, let's show a custom template, because in this case, the recipe singular doesn't have any information about the recipe itself. It just shows ingredients. So what we need is we need other things. Let's talk about those. Let's show that. So let's add the post title. So that's just sugar and milk. Okay, how about let's make it a list? Okay, that works. The cool part about that is also, if I made it a list, I might want to make it an unordered list or an ordered list. So if it's an unordered list, it's like that. And if it's an ordered list, I can control before and after content for my list right here in the block editor. And then I can also say, if there is no recipes found, I can say no recipe were found. And I can see how many to list. Let's say we're top 5. And I can say also how I want to order it. I can also limit by specific values. I can enable pagination. I can choose to show the pagination above or before the list, or even both. I can also choose the custom type of pagination available. And filters are also available. So if I have a relationship, I can say, why don't you show a filter to show ingredients? Show me all recipes that have butter in them, or milk, or sugar, or whatever it might be. You have that ability here. And also, another performant thing for developers, you're working with some stuff that might require a lot of data. Maybe there's some complicated templates. You can cache the data that is queried from the database with this simple option here to start caching it. So it's pretty helpful for a lot of different cases. It covers a lot of things, but it's also very powerful. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to link these. So I'm going to link this to the recipe itself. So there's that. So I can see the bottom left of my screen, I've got just sugar and milk. I'm going to go ahead and publish this. I'm going to view it. And now on the front of my site, it's my custom list. And I just saw it just a moment ago in my editor. That's what it looks like, and that's what it looks like. It's the same thing. Now, the full site editor experience is very similar to this. You have that ability, but also you have the ability to leverage things like a query loop. So with the query loop inside of WordPress, you can choose to have lists of queries. You can choose automatically. There's some really cool options here to choose from if you want specific layouts for your posts. I'm going to just go with standard, and we don't need everything, so I'm just going to remove that, remove the featured image. Because these are blocks, you customize every individual item. And this part, you don't even have to pay attention to. I'm just showing it because it's kind of cool. I can add a new block here, and I can say, let's go ahead and show a pod's field value. And we're going to use the current pod context and the current ID context. It's going to default to the current one. But I want to show ingredients. And then, but of course, I need to choose the parent query, and I need to say it is a recipe. There we go. There we go. All right, so updated. Now let's view that page again. So now we have a custom query loop inside of the block editor. If you dive into the query block, it's pretty fantastic. Like, it has a lot of dynamic options available. You can choose to move things around however you want. This is kind of the future of where things are going with WordPress. So when you want to customize your templates and your themes and singular archive views, all sorts of stuff like that, this is kind of where things are going to go. So if you want to dive into the query block more, you'll notice that there's some really cool options there. But I just showed you a quick example of how to embed a pod field right away. Like you don't need to tell what kind of pod or what item number it is. It will automatically pull that from the query block because it's completely compatible. Many of the pod's blocks are compatible with the query block and the way it works. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to work with. And let's show one more. Let's go ahead and add a form. So maybe someone has some great recipe ideas. And we'll do post title, post content, and let's say ingredient. And we'll customize that submit button. So it's a submit your recipe idea. I can also choose the output content type the way I want. Maybe it's table rows. And we'll go ahead and do that. Update that and view it. So on the front of the site, as I refresh, here we go. So I chose table output, so it looks like this in this theme, but if I choose other outputs, I have more flexibility. I also can customize the styles on it, but I can just enter my idea for a recipe. Maybe something more than sugar and milk. And we'll choose all ingredients we want to include and submit that. So upon submission, it becomes a draft post recipe in our database. So it's not going to show up automatically. Now we can go and look at it under recipes, and I can choose to say, okay, I approve that, and say, yeah, that was good. Publish that. And I can go back to this page and refresh just our custom feature one. It's not limiting it, but I can see now it lists all of them. It just appears. So as you see, the flow of everything in pods is meant to make it easy for you to create your content types very quickly, but also give you tons of flexibility. As a developer, as a site builder, as someone just trying to build something for a client, you've got a lot of flexibility here. And a lot of plugins like pods work very similar. So there's some really cool things like Toolset has some amazing block editing capabilities. If you've never checked it out and you have a lot of block stuff you want to do, there's some really cool stuff there. But like I've said before, there's different features and different plugins that may fit your needs most. So it's always good to check those things out and determine, and always play around with the free plugins. You can always try them out and see which one works best for you. This is some of my favorite stuff in pods, and the relationships goes even deeper. If I were to look at the books pod, you can see I've already got it set up so it relates to, let's go into this one. It relates to the book author. It also has other things like book categories and interest groups. And those taxonomies are represented. I think you have to turn them on under preferences. Let's see, blocks. No, I might not have them enabled for this one. But you can see here the custom fields I've already defined for this one. In this case, it's a book pod. It has a publication date. I can choose a specific date I want. I can choose a number of these different genres, language, country. Then I can choose the author. And then I can also say ISBN number. And this is the cool part. This is the part I wanted to show you that's really cool about relationships. When you're entering content, sometimes you want to enter content and continue entering content, right? So in this case, I maybe don't have a post yet. I need to go create one real fast. So I just click add new, and then my post, and I've just added my post content now. And there it is. I've got my post added, and I can choose that post from the list, and I can't see it from this list right now. But you can see how everything works in the way that you can get access to these things. So in this case, I'm relating to a user, and I have the add new ability, but I also have the edit ability. So I can go edit that user right away. Immediately, as soon as I click that edit button, it opens up a modal. I've never been taken away from the screen I was in. I was entering content, and I'm still in my flow. And so I can immediately go change some things around and save it and close it, and it'll update automatically. So this process of working with content is where Pods has its sweet spot. It's all about structure and how to make it easy for you to build your content and not make it confusing. the way Pods approaches things is separate from how you might have seen in advanced custom fields. So if you've ever used advanced custom fields, about 2 million people have, or more, and there's a lot of flexibility in how it works, but it allows you to add groups of fields and then choose where those groups appear. Pods allows you to add content types and then add your groups and fields to those. So there are two different ways of approaching it. And I find that the way that we approach it with Pods with content type structure is generally less confusing for a lot of people and also really easy for developers to better handle their content types and make sure that they're structured the way they want them to be. I hope this is helpful for you, and I'm excited to see what questions you might have lingering in the chat for me, and maybe there's dragons there. We'll have to see if Daenerys pokes her head out.
Thank you. It looks like there are a few questions, though there's a lot of excitement, like, holy smokes.
Yeah, so a lot of features have been added since Ken was last using Pods.
A lot with Pods since I've last used it. I know that.
Yeah, there's some really a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of just thousands of hours into Pods at this point. And 2021 was interesting because we didn't have a lot of funding compared to previous years. At the very start of 2021, just before COVID was really kicking off and doing its thing, we lost our primary sponsor, which was Automatic. The ironic part is they wanted to focus more on like block related plugins, and Pods was really, we were still really very much in the classic editor, and we hadn't really built a single line of code for block editor yet that was going to be like really block stuff. And so Automatic was like, you know what, we'd like to spend money towards other projects. So they transitioned their funding elsewhere, which is fine. That's understandable. But then, like I said, ironically, we built all these really fantastic features anyways. So I'm actually in contact with them now, see if I can bring them back along for the ride, help them have another further impact in our journey here with Pods. But there's some really cool stuff that we've done with donations as people who have donated to Pods. Pods is a free plugin. There is all the donations we get and all the sponsors money we get all goes towards development external costs. I don't get paid for Pods, which is like super unfortunate. I really wish I could. That'd be great. I get paid from all my work, but I don't. So I'm a 100% volunteer. And so I spend my days working on Paid Memberships Pro, which is a really great job. They have also become a sponsor of Pods, which is awesome. And they've also allowed me to build a really tight, groundbreaking integration for Paid Memberships Pro and Pods. So there's some really cool stuff that developed as part of that. But you can see that as I spend my time building all that stuff for Pods itself in my free time, I brought along developers to help me in different things. Like the React work was all built out in 2021, all of it. And all of it is fantastically done by an expert in that field. So I try to bring in people who know what they're doing, and that stuff ends up costing money. So we have donors who help us out. Like right now we're fundraising for Pods 2.9, which is going to include the new repeatable fields option. And that we're about 17, 18% of the way there. And you can see we've got some sponsors on board already. We've got, let's see here, 135 sponsors who are donating to Pods on a recurring basis. So that means they're monthly or annual. That's pretty fantastic. A year ago, I guess this time we had 10, 15. I don't know. It wasn't that many. So a lot of people stepped up and helped out to continue us in our project along. So that was great to see. But we've still got things to do. We've got a lot of ideas to work with. Something I didn't also mention was I built a Pods Pro option. It's not a pro version of Pods. What it is it's a completely complementary add-on set. It's a set of add-ons for Pods that adds new features that are more niche. So like integrations with different page builders, new big features like adding list tables feature, more advanced relationship storage options for developers, table press integration, other integrations with other plugins like WP GraphQL, and other things that I'm working on. I've got, I want to say like 50 other add-ons in a spreadsheet already scoped out, ready to go. I just got to find time for them. So there's lots of this stuff that I want to build out, and this is kind of my way to do it. So I can actually build things and have people pay to help fund that. And then some of these features end up going into Pods itself as a free plugin, free core feature. So there's some cool things that are involved here. And if you're a sponsor or donor to the Friends of Pods, I give special discount on the plans. So that makes it easy for people to just jump in. And it's but again, it's separate. It's a separate business. No money comes from Pods to the Pods Pro side of things. Some money does come from the Pods Pro to Pods. Like I just paid one of the dev invoices off with some money. But that's just I donate my money and time, and that's just what I do. I love the work I do for Pods. So cool stuff there. Let's get to some more questions. Yeah, so Pods actually does a number of things that different plugins all do, like custom post types UI, ACF, Metabox, CMB2. Some of these different plugins all do different things, and Pods is kind of like, oh, I'll do all those things, and I know about everything. So since it knows about everything, it can treat them all better in ways that tightly integrate. So all of the things that I've shown you doesn't even touch on the code side of things. Like a lot of our code knows about all the other parts of Pods, so it just automatically works when you're doing relationship queries and all sorts of other things. There's some really cool things in there that are enabled only because we've got all the stuff built in together. Templating, templating is a thing that a lot of plugins don't have. Like Metabox may have something. I can't 100% remember. They may have a views type of plugin. I know that Toolset comes with views as well. That's another area where they kind of excel at, where they have some really cool blocks functionality there. I believe our blocks and our templating functionality is pretty great, but I've got ideas there too. So there's lots of things that I'm still working on fulfilling the dream and vision for. But there's a lot of stuff in there that these plugins don't do yet. And that's okay. Sometimes people run over to page builders like Beaver Builder and Beaver Themer or Elementor. Elementor is actually one of our most popular plugins that people use for Pods. So it's interesting to see in the stats when we look at that.
Do you need an extension to run with Elementor? I see in the repository there's something that works with Beaver Builder.
Yeah, so there's a Beaver Builder themer add-on for Pods. That one's a free one on WordPress.org. I've refactored it and included it in the new Page Builder toolkit that is a Pods Pro add-on. This add-on has integration with Beaver Themer, Divi Theme, and Oxygen Builder. I'm working on expanded functionality for Beaver Builder and Elementor. However, Elementor includes Pods integration, I think, only in its Elementor Pro plugin.
Right.
But a lot of these other page builders don't have Pods integration built in, so we've stepped up and added some of that stuff in there.
Oh, so Elementor has it already?
Yes, it already has it. I think it's just the Pro version.
Right. Okay.
They snuck it in there. I understand that makes sense in a lot of ways, but because Elementor has a free version and Pods is free, I wish that it would have been more of a free thing, but that's okay. It's not at the level of integration like Admin Columns Pro has. Admin Columns Pro has like extensive features that need integrating with, but the Pods integration doesn't really seem that full blown in the Pro version. But the stuff I'm working on will expand it quite a lot more, and it'll bring it to Elementor free as well.
Excellent. I just had, when you were flying around there, I know this is a silly question, but do you have a place where you can set what you want the icon to be? Like right now, by default, It's attack.
Yes.
Just
so I can go here, and if I got the dashboard icon right, I believe it's
oh, okay. So you just have to get the
menu book, I think. Let me see. Go here, dash icon. If I click into this, I'll look up book. Let's do the book. Oh, is it just dash icon to book? Okay. So if I just enter that in here, and then I refresh my page, I'll see the book icon appear there.
Still spinning.
There it is.
But it's just not me. Yay. How are you running a multi-site local? You're not using local.
I am using local. Yeah. I
thought
it's
they
actually
didn't.
an option. You can use multi-site. The
Oh,
subdomains are an option. I have it set up to use on this one subdomains. Yeah.
okay. I'll have to look at
Yeah,
it.
it's a lot. It's easier with the subdirectory, but totally, it's always been that way. Local's always had that option.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought for some reason there was always a message that it couldn't do. Maybe you can't upload to a multi-site, but you can work local. No? Never mind. It's not about
I'm not 100%
multi-site.
sure there.
Yeah, I don't know. Not about local either.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Although local is worth talking about if you know anything. Well, you've heard me say it.
We could do that again. All right.
Sure.
So it's so in that way it's similar to okay. And another thing that I missed, was there a drop down for with the field when you built the fields?
So when you're creating a new field,
Hold on. Okay, the minute I say I'm going to sneeze.
yep.
I don't.
Kim, are you referring about when
you
you were selecting the ingredients to have a drop down?
The field type. The field type.
Yeah, so there's a drop down there, and you can't see it because of the screen share. Let's see here. Open up a new tab. That's not it.
kept looking for it. I didn't
There
know
it
if
is.
you installed another component or that's
There, I just took a
default.
screenshot of it. So there's a drop down. So you can choose from a number of different ones. This is a terrible list. The better list is on our doc site. I just revamped a ton of things on the doc site. We revamped the site as well, but the field types list is pretty great. It dives in by input type. So you could say text, website, phone, email, password, date time, number, slider, currency, color picker,
There we
drop
go.
down,
Multi-
multi-select.
Drop it. So how do you
checkboxes, radio
how do you
button.
select that then? I'm sorry to make this about me.
No problem. So if you look at it from here from the input type, if you're talking about the drop down, right?
Yeah, I want to select drop down. I'm looking at the field types. Wouldn't it be? It's not field types. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
So there's different input types. The field types cover a lot of ground, and the reason why it's stored like that is like it's almost just like the way that our content types are structured. It's structured by data, and relationships could have lots of different input types.
Okay.
So in the case of the editor here, if I go look at relationships, and I say let's just test relationship, and we'll relate it to I'll just books. I can choose the relationship option and these selection types.
Oh, I
Yeah, so
see.
there's drop down, there's radio buttons, autocomplete, and list view. And then multiple select has checkboxes, multi-select, autocomplete, and list view.
Okay, I misunderstood how to get there then. I just thought it would be in a field type. I got it.
And like if you have like a yes or no field, like a checkbox or Boolean kind of thing, we also offer different input styles for that too. So you can choose checkbox, or maybe it's like a yes or no radio button, or maybe it's just a drop down yes or no, and you can always customize those yes or nos. It's very flexible, but our docs page definitely makes it easier to dive into whatever you're looking to get into. It goes into every single detail of all the settings, what options there are. And I'm just a big fan of the way I've outlined the inputs here, because it just makes it so simple. You know what you're looking for. You click into it, and you know it's relational, and you can just find the exact one that fits your need. Embed's pretty cool.
Hey, Scott, when you were going through the templating, and I'm going to get the wrong terminology here, when you did the @ symbol for the tags, is that the right term? Do you want to maybe give an overview of what that is? Because many people may not know what that is when you went through it so quick with the templating.
Yeah, I was trying to be quick. So
I get it.
So these are what we call magic tags. Magic tags makes the world go round in Pods land. The way that we template things, it's almost like you're probably familiar with shortcodes. I'm sure most of you have seen a shortcode before. You got the square brackets and you have the name of the shortcode and maybe some attributes in there to change some things around. probably copy pasted them most of the time. Sometimes you may have changed some items and some values in there, but a magic tag is our own type of thing that we recognize to say, oh, this is a field value. We're looking for to output a field value right here. So we see that, we get it, and we do all sorts of really cool, awesome things with it. So let me show you a really cool part of this. Let's go ahead and look at relationships, media. Let's see, relationship, and we'll dive into field notation options. So with magic tags, we have the ability to select things off of relationships. So if I'm relating to a post, I can say, oh, I'm going to do related post.id. So if I go here and look at one of these, let's see, it might do it for post author here. Post author. Yeah, it does. So I know I have tons of fields on this post author. It's a user pod. I think I said it was 144 fields or something like that. And you can see I can automatically just start typing in what field it might be, and I can go choose, and then I'm done. And it will help you traverse. We call that traversal. It traverses into a relationship deep. And this is why this magic tag syntax is so useful and so easy to use, because this, especially this template editor, it allows you to do a lot of really cool things without much knowledge about what something is. You just kind of, it already is showing you the pod field name and all sorts of data like that. I can scroll down and see, I think that's all those on this one. And then also some really cool things are, I mean, I can scroll down here and you'll see even more things. There's lots of different options here depending on the type of field. If you want to output images, you can. But there's also things like getting pod data information, getting field information, like if you want to output a field label dynamically, you can just by typing the field name in the traversal information. It'll output the field label, so you don't have to type in, like I typed in ingredients earlier. I could have typed that in as this representation for the magic tag, and it would automatically update it no matter what my client entered for that field label. It would update it on the site, so they have complete control too. So there's some pretty cool things there that makes things easier. There's also item list information and context information. And a lot of this stuff becomes handy whenever you're dealing with our if conditional tag. Our if conditional tag is something that is unique to pods also. So like you've seen our templating magic tags, but you haven't seen our if conditional, which allows you to do some things like, if it has a value for chapters, go ahead and output the value up here. And in this case, I want to loop through every chapter and output the post title in this format, this exact format. So if you output a chapters list by default with just a basic magic tag, it's going to be a list with commas. But by using the if and in the combination with each shortcode tag inside of our template language, it will automatically do all that stuff for you. So this is another really clever area of pods that lets you go way further into some stuff that might be a little bit less familiar to you, but very flexible. I'm sure clients constantly asked to show add this field in an admin area, but only show it on the front end if it has a value, or only show it on the front end if this other value is this other value. And so now you have this flexibility to say, if I have a value for something, or if a field is not empty, or maybe if a field is empty, if a field is a specific value, like a number field, you can say, is it greater than or less than? All sorts of different pretty cool options in this doc area. So this is pretty useful reference point if you ever want to dive into it. And I'm sure Ken, as he dives into more pods, he's going to be like eating this stuff up and like, oh my gosh, this is great.
Wow.
Is there a way to build admin visible templates and views? Are you looking to render those inside of a like the admin area, like under an admin page? I think that was from.
Yeah, I think that's the question.
That's from Kimberly.
Yeah, I know. I'm interpreting it.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, I was just explaining. Okay, so little secret. Yes, you can, and it's pretty cool because if I go into edit my pod somewhere in all these tabs, another field type option is HTML content. What is this? Okay, so let's put some content here. So this is custom HTML. And now I have my HTML content. I have options. Check that out. Allow shortcodes. Well, I now have access to my pods shortcode. So I can output my pods list. I can output a list of items, templated data, all sorts of stuff within my form. Now this could appear with a label, like if I put it with a label, like disable form label, I can say no, and it'll show this label here to the left. Or I can say disable it, and it becomes full width in my form. So now whatever I put in this is going to be full width embedded directly within my fields. In between fields, or maybe it's above the list of fields or below, however you'd like, you have the ability to do HTML. You also have the ability to do heading tags. So if you want to put a H1 or H2 heading tag into any of your fields to separate things out further inside of a group, you have that ability to do that. You can also separate them with HTML content. You can add HTML separator if you'd like. All sorts of stuff that it's very flexible now. This stuff right here, these field types, HTML content and heading, they're now brought to you through Pods 2.8 release, which it brings a lot more capabilities. And list table add-on is pretty fantastic as well. That's one of the cool ones. If you've ever used Table Press, it allows you to create a list of table rows and have your columns, and you define which columns, and allows you to sort and all that stuff. Well, Pods has had all this stuff built into it since Pods 2.0. It just wasn't exposed. We never had time to build the UI and do all the stuff. Through Pods Pro, I was able to find that time and build a UI for it. So now you have a block that you can leverage to render list tables out. And you also have shortcodes you can leverage. And you can say, I want to have a pod and show these fields in there. I want to show limits. It has access to our more expansive find syntax, which lets us query things with ordering capabilities, searching, pagination, stuff like that. You can enable all those sort of things. And it allows you to do searching and filtering all like a normal list table is. And you can kind of see that here, right there. Whoops, just a little further. Yep, so I can search through that list table. I can also choose to have certain columns to be orderable, sortable, and all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of flexibility in there that I didn't really have to build much code inside of Pods to do this. This add-on just exposes all the APIs I've already had in there. So there's some really cool things in there that it can do, and you could leverage them as a developer to build your own interfaces all entirely with PHP as well.
But presumably that would work in the dashboard you could have sortable stuff, so then it would work for what Kim was asking about.
Technically, yes, you could input it in between forms, form fields and stuff like that. This specific thing is actually built to support custom page screens inside of admin area. So you could add your own menu page, and you call a simple pods_UI function, or you call it off the pods object and you say, I want to output the UI for this. It will build all of this for you automatically based off all the information it knows. With one line of code, with 10 characters, it will allow you to create that entire admin screen. It's fully functional with searching, filtering by individual columns, and pagination, sorting, ordering by, limiting per page, showing which fields you want to show. All those sorts of things are built in to that functionality. So there's some really cool stuff there. I want to find more time to build more docs for that, but you can see it. It's not here listed under the code reference area, but it is right here under Pods UI, and it gives you some examples. It's not super updated. I'd like to add some more examples and screenshots and stuff, but it's very flexible. I've got to update the example code. I just brought it over from the old doc site, but there's some work to do there. What happens to the tables in smaller screens? So similar to the way WordPress works, the tables do break down. I think you can have it set up so it will show just the title and it won't show the other columns. I'd have to double check onto that sort of thing. We've tried to keep it paired to how WordPress list tables works. It's based off of the list tables functionality, but because list tables is so hard coded into WordPress, it doesn't allow you to do certain things in interface wise that we needed it to do. So we had to expand that, and it was also heavily tied at the time back 5, 7, 8 years ago when we built it. It was heavily tied to posts, so we had to build more things to make it all work. If you're local and looking to find a place to build business while brainstorming, oh, Santiago, my bad. Oh, that was a
She's
question.
promoting.
That's good.
Yep. Great place.
Thanks, Santiago.
He's also offering a 10% discount on a download of pods.
Oh, once a year we have a sale. It's a flash sale where we go completely
Yeah.
free.
Says you, Paul.
Yeah, well, that's why I have my camera off, because I'm flashing. So
Oh, good. I'm glad to know the camera's off. Thank you very much.
The virtual conferencing and virtual meetings are not quite the same as in person. But I'm glad
Thank
in
God.
this case that they're
if
not.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah. We'll go. I would love to go back to your place.
that is not what he's doing. Okay, just to be clear.
Why is he walking away then?
I got to eat sometime.
All right,
Really?
let's cut. You got anything else?
We talked about the blocks. I dog fooded, if you're ever familiar with that. I dog fooded our blocks API. So all the block stuff I built, it can be built with just a few lines of PHP to build your own blocks. So you can also build these types of blocks with our blocks API here. I've done a screencast about it, and also have example code available where you define your blocks and you say how you want to render it. You can render it with HTML, with PHP, or you can also render it with a template if you want to use a template. It actually supports it in JavaScript, so you can use a magic tag and it'll output your fields, your block fields in the screen directly. So there's no page loads or no server-side rendering and stuff like that. And it supports inner blocks and some stuff, but also maybe most importantly, this is compatible with the ACF blocks. So if you've ever built ACF blocks, it does the same thing. It's the same structure, same argument supported as well. Like if you just bring over your array and you pass it into our blocks array, then it just works. It's pretty cool in that way. Try to make it flexible. And
I love
play
this on
music.
so many levels because, I just built a post type and built something while you were doing this to see what it's like. But then yet you're talking about this really deep code. So on so many levels, this is for, people who are just doing drag and drop and do a little HTML up until people like Paul.
It's a pretty cool plugin
No.
because we see a lot of people who I would say most of our user base comes from 3 areas. One, outside of WordPress, coming to WordPress for the first time, they see it and they say, oh, I need something like pods because I had this at my other content management system. And then another one is coming from ACF. Someone is coming from just brand new to WordPress, but new in general. But all these people end up coming to pods, and there's a lot of beginners, and that's totally fine. We try to cater to beginners as much as possible. We try to let you level yourself up. And also we share a lot of information. So our community Slack is live on Slack. You can just hop into our Slack and ask questions and stuff to the community. We've got our WordPress.org forums. We've got our Twitter and everything else you can always tag along on. But the cool part about all of that is that it grows with you, because as soon as you're building your things and you realize, oh, I need better scaling, all of a sudden I have 20 custom fields on my post types, and I have million rows of this post, and now I have, what is that, 1 million times 20? That's 20 million records in my post meta. And so if you're a developer, you're thinking about this, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, a quick solution might be to just leverage the pods convert content type WP-CLI command, which converts your content type over to a table-based pod. It's still a post type, and it still stores the data where it needs to, but it stores your custom fields in their own table so that you have the best of both worlds, and it's compatible with a lot of the normal meta APIs for calling meta information. So there's some really cool things you can do as you scale up as a developer diving into it, as a beginner diving into it. We try to share as much knowledge as possible, general WordPress knowledge as much as possible as well. Try to teach you the WordPress way to do things. And also, if you want to dive into more optimized ways, we have lots of suggestions there as well.
I would say it's definitely one of the more impressive plugins on the repository. It's incredibly powerful and better than ACF, I think.
Well, Corey asked, I wonder what someone leaves ACF for pods might be. And you were saying you get people like that. What might be
Yeah.
the difference that they would do that?
Well, like I said, when we first started things, relationships is a big thing that brings us people from ACF. One of the cool parts about that add new modal thing is it allows you to enter content in ways that you used to store as repeatable fields. And we did that on purpose. We built that feature first because that is the way we recommend people enter relational data. If it's relational, it should be relationships. And so we recommend that for people to use. And our repeatable fields are going to come in, and there's going to be a notice there to say, hey, are you sure this should be a relationship field and stuff like that. But there's some cool things that you can leverage as part of the pods feature set you don't get access to through a plugin like ACF. You do have some basic relationship options inside of ACF, but if you've, I can load up the page here. Advanced custom fields. Let's just look at the documentation so it shows you the field types. So they kind of show the same type of information. You've got your list of inputs, and really the inputs are the actual field types. And watch when you find out about relationships. We've got a relationship, but wait, we have a post object. We also have a page link. There's a user and a taxonomy field. There's also a link field. Our field is one field type with multiple input types. Theirs is different. And so the flexibility of theirs, they have a lot of backward compatibility concerns with those. So there's reasons why they haven't combined them yet. And that's going to be something Delicious Brains is going to have to figure out. But the flexibility that our relationship field offers is vast compared to this one, especially with our advanced relationship options. You can relate to tables outside of WordPress. It doesn't have to be inside of WordPress itself. It doesn't have to be an object. It could be relating to user roles or user capabilities. Maybe it's relating to plugins on your site or themes on your site. There's all the stuff that are registered inside of WordPress in different areas. Any type of relational option information we can find, we've added a little option to relate to it because there's someone out there who's going to want it, and we just made it easy because it's just a one line of code for us. Why don't we add it? And so it's there so people can leverage it. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do through that, but also that flexible relationship option where allows you to do the add new. And then the list view, which is, like I said, one of my favorite views. It allows you to list information from those relationship options right there in the form. It shows you the featured images. It shows you the edit links. You can go preview that. You can also, for files that uses a similar one, so you can click to download or you can click to edit those. It's very familiar and easy to leverage for interface. But the biggest part there was the content entry. Content entry is a breeze when you're working with that entryway. And when you're dealing with relationship information that doesn't just live attached to one item, stuff that's reusable, that's the way to go. It's very flexible. And some of the other things about ACF are kind of covered by blocks now. Like flexible content, that's kind of blocks now. That's blocks. A lot of these things are useful, but a lot of those types of use cases are no longer needed in ACF. So there's some things like flexible content, which is a pro feature, as well as repeater field. These are pro features inside of their ACF Pro for $50 a year or more, depending on what you want to do. So Pods is going to introduce that for free, a repeater field. Pods already has the flexible relationship field for free. All the stuff I've shown you today in the WordPress, these are all freely available things. Not a single feature I showed you was a pro feature, except to show you the Pods Pro site. All this stuff, we're just trying to give everyone a leg up to build awesome things, because I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of help along the way. I've had tons of help from people. Someone's bailed me out of a financial issue more than once whenever I was just couldn't make rent one day as a, I was still a teen and having my own apartment, and I was like, I can't make the rent because I forgot to pay something and I had to go pay this, and I was facing a payday loan, and I was like, oh, and someone bailed me out and helped me, and so I try to pay it forward, and I've loved that phrase, pay it forward, and I think everyone, if you learn anything from this whole presentation, is try to pay it forward to other people. If there's something here you've learned that might help someone else, help them. And even if it's not pods related, if it's ACF, oh, like there's a cool feature in ACF I found out, help them. It's good to help people.
I think that's cool about the community too. People getting together, and I watched this documentary about beer, a lot of breweries in Pennsylvania. And one thing, these breweries, these local ones, get together, help each other. And you would think they were competition, but they're not. They're all working towards a similar goal. So if somebody like ran out of something or had some kind of catastrophe, they'd go over there. And I see the same in our WordPress community with our meetup. Nobody's like, well, if I share this with you, then you're going to take my work away from me or something like that. That people are helping one another.
Kim, you and I have worked together on some things. I've worked with Matt Ryan on some things as well. Just, people just reach out. Scott, I take the same approach. There are people that know more about WordPress than me, but I also know there are people that know less than me. So I learn from the people that I can learn from, and I help the people that I can help.
That's great. I'm very thankful for the people who have enabled all that through the Friends of Pods program too. I know I mentioned it before, but the cool part about it is there's not a single plugin out there that does this. They take donations, but we have a full-blown donation program, which is almost like a public radio program. You donate and you can get access to some rewards and stuff, like some discounts from different places, just like the Pods Pro discount, stuff like that. But it's really cool to see that there's people who believe in open source in a way that is just different from the normal paradigm. Like, you don't have to have a premium plugin to be successful on WordPress, but it's certainly difficult to do it if you don't have any sort of premium component. And we've tried to make this free donation based plugin, Pods, work for 13 years, and we've continued to make it successful. Maybe it hasn't been able to grow in some ways, but also maybe it wasn't weighed down by some of the pro concerns or the premium concerns that may have been there. But there's some cool parts about that, and I'm very happy that people have done that. Oh, and I mentioned it's the only one, but also Pods, out of all of the custom field plugins out there, content type plugins, is the most popular by active installs, free plugin on WordPress.org that is free. And I say that because custom post types UI, ACF, all these other plugins have premium versions, or add-on things that are built into it. Like, so they intentionally have free things and then they have premium things tucked away that they're trying to make you buy the premium things because that's how they make their free plugin go.
Right.
That's not the same with Pods. Pods has its free plugin that's donation based. And in a Pods Pro thing, again, that's completely separate, even company-wise, two different companies. And Pods Pro itself is not trying to make you spend money on it to support Pods. It's just some stuff I want to build that'd be really cool.
It's not like something you go to do, like one thing when you go to do something and then it says, this is a premium feature. You don't have, there's none of that shows up.
Not a single bit, no. We're not trying to upsell Pods Pro.
Don't we have somebody in our group, Kim, that uses Pods for something? Was it the guy from Lafayette? He did something. He did
Charles?
a presentation. I don't remember his name. I thought he was doing. He had something that he built with Pods. I can't remember what though. It was a while ago.
It might have been Charles.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to thank you so much, Scott. This has been fantastic. This has been something that I've been neglecting looking at, but I'm going to stop the recording. So we'll say thank you, and which one to stop? That one. You want to stop, yeah.